something very, very significant has happened. There's been a huge cultural shift. And it's been brought on by a huge generational shift, in large part. There are other factors too, but the millennial generation has begun to change the way we think about business especially, both from the employer side, employee side, as well as from the marketer and customer side. Things have changed dramatically. We've entered a new era, and that is people are looking for something new and different, but in a new and different way. We all have what we need. Is there anybody here who needs another television set? Is there anybody here who needs another car? Well, I could actually use another car, but you get my point. We have what we need. A lot of times we actually even have what we want, right? Just, I want this, and so we get it. And so people are looking for something more. And that is what's changed. It used to be that you would buy something from a company that advertised it, you became aware of it, it seemed like a good product, the guy sold it to you, you bought it. That's easy, right? Used to be you wanted a job, you went to school or you went to learn a trade, you got a job and you were happy about it. But things have changed. I don't know if you can see below the chairs there, but just in your industry alone, look at the progression from the days when you had a local banker, right? And that was the only person you knew. You might have a stockbroker if you were that type of investor, but look how it changed. At the very same time, look at that same progression. My father had a career, a lifelong career at Dow Chemical. In the 80s, the yuppies turned it into a profession. People had roles in an organization. Now they got a gig. They may not be with the same company tomorrow that they're with today, but they might be back to that same company the day after. It's all changed. It's such a different world. And this has repercussions, not all of them good. This change is making it so that brands that we at Chromium call quo brands, brands that don't quite get it in time, end up falling way behind, getting behind the 8 ball in such a way that they fail, right? And this isn't limited just to the big corporations, giant stuff, right? It's happening on a local scale too. Look at retailers. It's happening on a specialized scale. Look what technology has done to actively manage funds. Things are different. Things are changing. They're changing rapidly. Technology and this new generation are combining to make a great amount of change. So people want something different, whether they're going to work for you, work for your company, or whether they're going to buy from you. And what's really interesting is that they kind of want the same thing. You can't see this because these nice orange chairs are in the way. But I'll read it to you. People are looking for engaging experiences, educational opportunities, authentic relationships, value realization, and a path to self-actualization. This is a psychological principle where you reach a higher plane of existence because of what you're doing, of what you're experiencing. And this goes for workforce and it goes for the customer. They're both looking for the same thing from companies. Companies didn't actually expect that they would have to be providing self-actualization. So there's a lack of preparedness there. And where we find the solution to this is in a place that we call the Nexus. Now, imagine an infinity symbol, okay? One side is brand, one side is culture. One side is where businesses connect with customers, the other side is where businesses connect with their employees, with the workforce. Where they meet in the middle there is the nexus. Now, what's interesting about brand and culture is that if you have a really strong brand but a really weak culture, then people who come to you, customers who come to you, are going to have a very bad customer experience. You're going to have high turnover. You're going to have a lot of problems. If you have a very strong culture but a very weak brand, you're going to be the best kept secret in the world, and that's not going to help anybody, right? So brand and culture are a perfect fit. Again, why we haven't really thought of this before is, well, maybe it's not remarkable, but it's like surprising, right? Why didn't we do it? Of course, brand and culture. Now, you look at a brand, whether it's Lego or Legg Mason, and brands are really, really well constructed things. They're really well thought out. They're visually compelling. They have an emotional connection. You can't not notice a good brand. Nobody here in the marketing function has ever just said, hey, let's start a company. We won't name it. We won't have a strategy. We'll just let it go. We'll let our customers name it. We'll let them do a new logo each day. We'll have a tagline of the week contest. That would be a disaster, right? There has to be adult supervision when it comes to brands. Now, the funny thing is, culture should be the same way, but it's not. The number of companies who simply take culture for granted, it's just something that happens. Well, the culture's here. Just the culture. Yeah, the culture, yeah. Yes, yeah. Just sort of springs up from the bottom there. Cultures are either accidental or planned, but every company has a culture. If it's accidental, like this, that means that you got this nice loaf of bread, you shoved it in a cupboard somewhere in a plastic bag, and you forgot about it for a week. And when you came back, it was ruined. It's being devoured. This culture is devouring its host. It's toxic. Right? This is not a good culture. This is a culture that's planned. This is actually a petri dish with the handprint of an 8-year-old child who just came in from a playground. Inspire confidence, right? Parents. But the nice thing about this, despite the fact that your children are carrying staff, is that it was planned, right? They set it up. They got the medium that was sterile, that would host this culture. They put it in the right place, in the right temperature. They watched it. We're now able to learn from it. It's actually kind of beautiful, right? There's going to be innovation because of this culture. How do we keep staff from infecting the staff, right? So this is what happens when you have a culture that is managed. You learn things. It grows, but it grows in a controlled fashion. Innovation happens. Good things happen. Now imagine you have a weak brand and a weak culture. Right? It's a train wreck. It's terrible. It's like you're stumbling around in the dark, barefoot, eating a mold sandwich, stepping on Legos. This is not a good state of affairs. The fact of the matter is you can have a train wreck if just one thing is off, if you have a weak brand or a weak culture. Here, get out of the train wreck for a second here. I want to read you, it's kind of a love letter. Well, maybe not exactly a love letter, but it goes like this. These are three people here. You should resign. You should give back the money you stole while this scam was going on, and you should be criminally investigated. Isn't that lovely? Here's another one. The best thing you can do for your company, your shareholders, and your country is to resign. You have presided over a poisonous culture where incredibly 5,300 employees thought it was perfectly fine to cheat their own customers to get themselves a bigger bonus. Oh, and there's one more. These practices undermine the fundamental trust that goes to the heart of the bank-customer relationship. Who is the object of this affection? Wells Fargo. Who are these people? Senator Elizabeth Warren, persona non grata on Wall Street. But William Cohen from the New York Times, who usually writes very nice things about companies. And Thomas Curry, comptroller of the currency. You know when you are being called on the carpet, publicly upbraided by the comptroller of the currency, you've done something very much wrong, right? I don't know John Stumpf. I don't know how directly culpable he is, but he's the boss. He's at the top. Culture starts at the top. It needs to be focused on at the top. What happened there was one of the most venerable brands in American history, Wells Fargo, started growing a mold that began to devour its host. The value was lost. It started with a loaf of bread, you ended up with compost, right? That's not good. Culture starts at the top. When you have a bad culture, it costs money. It costs a lot of money. It costs the whole country money. When you have a bad culture, it's costing me money. It's pretty pervasive too. 68.5% of employees have said that at certain points, they're just disengaged. They're not motivated. They can't make it happen. They don't know what they're doing here. 68.5% of the time when people are asked, why aren't you doing a good job? This is why. It's pretty pervasive. It's dangerous. It's destructive. Good people leave companies all the time because they don't see why they're there. They're not engaged. They don't like the brand. They don't like the values. They don't like what it stands for. Oh boy, it's not good for the shareholders either. Companies that are not focusing on the Nexus are lower value companies. They deliver lower value to their shareholders. So who's going to save us? Right? Who's going to save us? CEO? Marketing? HR? By the way, you can make the CEO either one on either side. But this is marketing. You know it is, right? This customer relationship is mine. Alfred, prepare the KPI dashboard. I think they're Batman. But the CEO not only has a full plate, the CEO has many plates, and they're full, and he's trying to keep them spinning, he or she, right? Marketing, they're really good at looking out. They got all the greatest gear, all the newest technology. They're always looking out. What's going on out there? They should probably turn around a little bit and look inside, right? Marketing's not going to save you. HR, their tools are kind of blunt. HR can shepherd culture, but HR can't create culture, right? PTO, performance reviews, bonuses, raises. These things aren't culture. These are things. These are tactics. These are not big concepts like culture. But it turns out that every company does, or at least should, have something already in their possession that makes it possible to reach that nexus between brand and culture. It's a brand strategy. This is our brand strategy. It's the framework we use. I'd show you a client's brand strategy, but they might get upset about that. But what does a brand strategy have? It has a mission, a vision, values. It has the brand essence, the DNA, the heart and soul, the mantra of the brand. It has target audience, positioning, the brand evidence we call it, but the USP, the points of superiority. It has a narrative that people buy into. It has a persona that you're projecting. But think of this. This is all meant for marketing to project outward to customers. But customers want to know what your mission is. They want to be a part of that mission, or at least they want to watch. But employees live that mission every day. What we do is our mission. Our vision is why we do it. Why do I come to work? Why do I perform? Why do I bother to do all these annoying little things so that I can help achieve this vision? Customers want to be a part of that vision too. They want to know that their money is going to companies that are helping to make a better world. Core values. This is how we do what we do. If your core values don't align with the customer's desire for a company with a particular set of values, they'll go someplace else. If your employees don't run their daily lives at work based on the core values, your company is going to be a toxic culture, right? If you even have core values. All of these components, every single one of them has an inward-looking side, right? The narrative. There were two guys in a garage. They started a computer company. Then it became Apple. I like that narrative. I want to be part of it. I'm a customer. I like that narrative. I want to be part of it. I'm an employee. These things are all shared. Brand and culture are the same damn thing. They have different expressions, but they're the same damn thing. They're at the nexus, right? That strategy is the nexus between brand and culture. And what's interesting is if you take this sort of figure eight and you unpack it, you unbundle it, what do you get? You get a circle, a continuum. Brand and culture. Where does one start? Where does one end? When is something brand? When is it culture? If your team helps build a school in Costa Rica and you give them t-shirts, is that brand or is that culture? They go back to the softball game. Oh, what's this? We went to Costa Rica and built a school. Man, what a great company. I think I'm going to buy something from that company. If you post this poster, this is a salad bar in San Francisco. I don't know if they might have them here. But listen, 21 times our most loyal customers eat here per month. 102 local ingredients. 1 million pounds of local sustainable organic vegetables. 9 out of 10 store managers promoted from within. 3 years average length of employment. 99% of waste diverted from landfill. Is this brand or is this culture? They're not selling salad, my friends. They're selling the nexus. Is this brand or is this culture? Who gets impacted more? Yeah, Equifax, SoFi, HSBC. The list goes on and on. Is it brand or is it culture? Where does the problem lie? There's a concept in Japanese business culture called Ikigai. And no, Ikigai is not that fellow on the F train this morning. Ikigai is when the things you do for work are so compelling and so satisfying that you don't mind working 12, 14, 16 hours a day, which they do a lot. That you don't mind that your work takes over your life to a great extent because you love it so much. Ikigai. Think about the customer experience. Same thing. They're looking at brands for the very same level of satisfaction. I don't buy things that are going to fall apart. I don't buy things from companies that are poisoning the environment. I don't buy things from companies that don't have good diversity. Right? Inside and outside. You could make this very same thing for the customer. There is a customer Ikigai as well as a workforce Ikigai. So how do we reach this pinnacle, right? And we want to reach this pinnacle. We want to find the nexus. And why we want to do that is because it really, really changes things. People are more engaged. When you have a great brand and culture, when you're focused on the nexus, lower turnover, right? Save you a lot of money, lower turnover. It's safer. People get hurt less. Imagine that. The work is better. The products are better. The nexus makes it so that this happens. People are more productive. Woo, CEO's happy about that. More profitable. You can command a premium in pricing. You outperform companies that aren't bothering to focus on the nexus. You're winning the race. But nobody ever won an argument using stats. And here's the real point. When you focus on the nexus of brand and culture, you're making the world a better place. You're making humanity happier, more productive, more innovative. When you focus on the nexus, you're actually saving the world. And no, this isn't a joke from Silicon Valley. You really are. So again, how do we get there? We've got brand on one side, we've got culture on the other. Somewhere at the end of that path is this nexus, right? It's going to require leadership, a new kind of leadership. It could be a person, it could be a group, but the level of commitment and the level of focus has to be intense. There have to be resources. There has to be dedication. And the focus has to be on that nexus. It can't be, what's our culture going to be about? Right? Because then you're leaving out one half of the equation. Brand and culture. The nexus. Does anybody know who these people are? Miguel McKelvey of WeWork. Bozoma St. John of Uber. Bozoma St. John's portfolio includes brand and culture. She's been brought on to fix the Uber brand, which stinks. Why did they do that circle thing with the, what does that mean? Who did that? Why? Was there a strategy there? I don't think so. And the culture. Imagine, this is that culture we talked about. Millions of contractors, all representing a brand, yet they don't know each other. They have no conversations. They have no connection with each other. They're just all driving and they're trying to make a buck. No wonder, add in the stinky leadership, no wonder they're in trouble. Miguel McKelvey, he's one of the co-founders of WeWork. He was originally the chief creative officer. He is now the chief culture officer. Oh, and Bozoma St. John's the chief brand officer. And so even though their titles say one thing or the other, he comes from the creative side. He says that his job is to make sure that the members, the people, the customers, and the people who work for WeWork have an experience that elevates their lives. Self-actualization. He's selling the nexus. Right? Here it is. Self-actualization. So what's important about this new generation of leadership? It's that focus. And again, it's the idea that this has to be at the highest levels. It can't be shunted off to some managers. Do some culture stuff. Can we have cupcakes on Friday? Is that culture? Resources, authority, a direct line to the CEO. Sometimes the CEO can do it, right? Occasionally you get to Steve Jobs. But most of the time, as we said, they've got too much going on. So a new set of leaders who have these dual skills that understand the marketing function, the brand function, and understand the HR function, the people function, so that they can take these two big, big things, brand and culture, and meld them together to look at the nexus and find out how to make their organization successful. The nexus, when you focus on the nexus, you create a scenario where people live better lives. The nexus is relevance. The nexus is self-actualization. The nexus is power. Tap the nexus. Thank you.